One undeniable fact of the smartphone industry in the last several years is that the Chinese brands are on the rise. Think about it. Xiaomi was founded just 8 years ago with no prior manufacturing experiences whatsoever. Its rise in the world is almost as fast as Nokia's fall. 5 years ago, a man named Peter Lau founded the company OnePlus together with Cao Pei, and it produces now one of the best received smartphones in the world. In the same year, Samsung was still dominant in China, selling 1 out of every 5 smartphones. And now, Samsung takes only 1% of the Chinese smartphone market share. We can talk about protectionism and nationalistic sentiment all day, but the fundamental fact is that the market and the consumers are the best judges for a product, and the verdict is and continues to be, we choose the Chinese brands. If the numbers in China is not convincing enough, here's the number in the European Union, India, Southeast Asia, and Africa. It's time for us to admit that the Chinese manufacturers are doing something right, and perhaps Apple should learn a thing or two from them. So what I want to discuss today is Apple's situation in China. Its product continues to have one of the best qualities in the industry, but this quality no longer justifies its hefty price. Most of us know it. It just happens that 2018 is this critical year. Tim Cook, in a recent letter to investors, lowered Apple's sales guidance for the first time in 8 years to $84 billion, blaming China for its sluggish performance. But regardless of how the story is spun, the fact is, consumers have chosen to pay less to Apple in 2018, and this loss of interest is particularly stark in China. There are 2 discussions involved here. Why is Apple's strategy not working, and why it fails disastrously in China? We do have a lot of indicators before it happened though. Number 1. Apple suppliers have been adjusting their demand projections in the past month, noting that Apple's needs for their parts are dropping. Number 2, Apple sales numbers has been stagnant in the past years. Why have most people not noticed that before? Because the financial market is deceiving. As long as Apple is still making more money, the stock market is happy. What people don't talk about is that Apple's increase in profit has been driven by its more expensive smartphones, not higher popularity or sales numbers. In fact, if you look at the sales numbers of iPhone over the years, Apple peaked in 2015 selling over 231 million units that year, making iPhone 6s the most popular phone of all time. But after 2015, Apple's popularity is literally stagnant. The only reason why this stagnation is not reflected in the market is because of Apple's ability to increase its price. We saw its first $1,000 smartphone last year with iPhone 10. So anyone who's been following Apple's situation knows that Apple's decline in revenue is a matter of when, not if. In fact, if not for Apple's ability to increase price, its profit should have dropped in 2016, not 2018. This is my first point. Apple has only been delaying its decline, not preventing it, and it's apparent in Apple's sales numbers. In 2018, Apple's decline is caused by several macro reasons as well, including the sluggish smartphone industry and the world's economy. The industry didn't have a fantastic year. The market is saturated in most geography, and the numbers across board is dropping ever since 2016 for around 10 million units. Another macro problem is the turbulent world economy. Since Apple is more expensive, hence more price elastic, when the time is bad, people shy away from buying an iPhone because it is not necessary to pay $500 more for simply the brand. However, Apple's particularly sharp drop in China is more complicated to explain. The first reason is that what normally works for Apple in the United States does not work in China. This accelerated Apple's fall in China. One good example is Apple's ability to lock its customers with Apple's ecosystem. Apple's wide range of products, including its laptops, tablets, smartwatches, and software applications, do not do well in China. Its laptop remain too expensive for the general public, its smartwatches are easily replaced by cheaper Huami watches, and its applications like iMessage are replaced by mega apps like WeChat. Siri is a joke in China. Never has it been able to recognize Chinese as good as the Chinese apps, and Apple Pay's market share is basically non-existent, as people are all using WeChat Pay and Alipay. As a result, the opportunity cost of leaving Apple's ecosystem is a lot lower. This brings me to my final point. It's competition. Huawei, Vivo, Oppo, and Xiaomi are doing a fantastic job in making innovative and beautiful smartphones. Just take a look at the next phone from Vivo. It was the biggest surprise in 2018 for the gadget industry. It was lauded not only for being the first of this innovative design, Vivo was also very impressive at manufacturing a concept phone in less than a year. Apex's pop-up camera concept came out in CES 2018 beginning of the year, and the sales next started 6 months later. This capability is impressive. Here you might ask, if the competitions of Apple are so good, why haven't I heard of it? Well, that's simple. They're not sold in the United States because of the restrictions. By now you probably have heard of Huawei being the target of the United States government, accusing them of being a national security threat. I have not been able to find a concrete evidence supporting that accusation except for American government's word, but this will definitely delay the competition coming to the North American market, which in my opinion will cost the American consumers because of the lack of competition. All that said, this doesn't mean that Apple is not doing well. Just as Tim Cook laid out, Apple is making strides in almost all other products except for its smartphones. The App Store, the Apple Music, the iPad Pro, the Mac, so on and so forth. But regardless, this defeat definitely is an inflection point, signaling changes to the smartphone industry, telling vendors like Apple to stop raising prices as the consumers dislike this strategy, and eventually, I think this will benefit all of us. Hey, thank you all so much for watching. I really can't stress this more. Do follow me at Lay Creatives on Twitter and Instagram, especially on Twitter. I'm pretty active over there. If you want a more prompt update of my videos. YouTube hasn't been the most reliable way of getting notified for my future videos, so do follow me over there at Lay Creatives on Twitter and Instagram. Also, today I want to thank a few of you guys for supporting me on Patreon. You are Frank Foss, Brian Luptak, and Robert Bergman. Thank you so much for supporting me. That's it for today. I'll see you guys next time.